going on, everyone? It's Bales, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Round Review. It's round 16, and it is in the books. It was another huge scoring week, absolutely crazy. 2,500, 2,600s. I was seeing it's ridiculous. So, 24-28, normally you would be pretty happy with, but I think it's a little bit under par. Put me at a round rank of 16,961. So, fell down 539 spots. So I didn't think I'd be feeling underwhelmed for, I think that's my highest scoring week for the season, 24-28. So, but unfortunately, we are a little bit underwhelmed because we left a few points on the board with a few players not quite performing up to the rest of the team. So we'll get through all those players anyway, but +3 and -3. I had a hard time splitting the +3 between two players. So Brad Crouch was 1 with 137. He was obviously fantastic against the Eagles in a good matchup, just hugging everyone in his sight. I think, what did he have, 16 tackles or something? Or some crazy number? 17 tackles, crazy. 27 tackles in 2 weeks, which is ridiculous. So he's looking like a great pick at the moment. I obviously got him last week, and he's put up 2 really good scores for me. So he was 1. The other guy I couldn't quite split away from was Ben Keys, who I also picked up last week. It was him and Crouch, and they've performed 2 weeks in a row. Obviously, Keys a bit quieter last week with only a 90, but 132 this week. Only had the one CBA, but his role isn't really that deep forward that we saw him play at the start of the year where he was scoring these poor scores. He's actually getting up the ground and getting involved in and around the stoppages. So I think that this role can continue, and he could quite easily be a guy that's in and around the top 6 forwards. So I think he's still a good pickup if you don't have him yet, but I'm very happy to have him in my side. So him and Brad Crouch get the +3 sort of joint. I'd sort of like to choose one. If I had to choose one, it's probably going to be splitting just to Crouch just because he's got the higher score. But I think both at the moment, I couldn't quite split them. -3, this guy's very lucky not to get it. Darcy Cameron, he could easily get it with a 58, but it's got to go to my boy, Rory Laird, 85. Unfortunately, it's been a bit underwhelming this season for Lairdy. Last season, he was just sort of relied on him every single week. Whereas this year, he's had a couple of down weeks that sort of caught me off guard. I didn't see this one coming with an 85. I thought, okay, well, if you saw the 85 there, you thought, well, he probably got tagged by Shields or copped some attention from someone. But no, he just didn't quite play exactly to the standard I thought he was going to. It looked like he was just coasting for a lot of the game. And there's another guy for the Crows that's stealing all his points at the moment and playing great footy. So, So he gets the -3, unfortunately, but hopefully he can respond this week. But he just won't be getting my captaincy, I don't think, this week. I think there's going to be better options, but I just sort of almost want to drop him for a week so he can find some form without having the responsibility of being my captain. So, but we'll get to the rest of the players. So Jordan Dawson, 136. It was all week. It was Dawson or Laird. Who do I go my captain? I was going Taranto VC. I didn't really change off that. So I sort of wish I did. Obviously, in hindsight's a wonderful thing, but it was between Dawson and Laird, and I was sort of Dawson for most of the week. I then changed back to Laird. I don't know, just thinking about it, I thought, well, Laird normally does better against the more bottom teams, and it sort of flips the other way where Dawson does well against the better teams. Don't get me wrong, Laird does well against everyone, but I just sort of thought, well, if I'm splitting hairs, plus Dawson, not many times does a player score up 170 and back it up with a good score, like a big score. So, but Dawson did that with 136. I think he's clearly the number 1 defender, and I'm glad I jumped on him. I think I jumped on him at round 13 for 940 odd, 950 odd K, and I'm glad I did because he's now at $1.05 million, averaging 115. So what's he scored since I've had him in? 105, 132, 136. So I think it's his 2 high scores of the year I've had since I've got him in. So it's been a good trade-in. I just wish that I owned him from the start of the year. But hey, I've still got him, which is great. And I wish I put in captain, which cost me, was it 51 points? That would have put me I wouldn't have probably dropped. I probably would have risen a couple hundred spots and I would have scored near 2,500. But, oh well. Sam Doherty, great trade-in this week. I was very happy with him with 113 points. So he's just going to be a top 3 defender, I think. So I'm very, very happy to have him in the side to sort of complete my defence. Obviously, I'll get Sicily in at some point, and then that's pretty much my defence done for the year. Maybe Stu or someone can go to someone at some point later, but Stuart has got games down at GMHBA, which I'm looking forward to. Nick Dacos, 150. Just this guy's a gun. We all know this. I didn't expect the 150. I think we probably didn't think that he quite had that 150 odd ceiling because just his tackle numbers aren't normally there. But look at this, like he had, what was that, 36 disposals, 7 marks, 10 tackles. Like he hasn't been able to do that in any games this year. If he can start laying tackles, like he's laid 6, 5 and 10. If he can start doing this, well, he's actually only had one game under 5 tackles in his last 5 games. So if he can start laying consistent tackles, get these marks, all of a sudden we're looking at a guy that can go 110, 115. Well, he's going at 114 anyway, but can keep that 115, even maybe go near 120 on the run home if he can add these tackles, which is crazy to think that he can get better than what he is. But he was great. So again, unfortunately not to get my +3 for that one there, but he was fantastic. Jack Sinclair 101, get the job done against West Coast. Probably a lot of coaches would have thought maybe he would have been able to go 110 plus, but hey, 300s in a row since I've owned him. A lot of coaches have owned him, so I'm very, very happy with him, and he's going to be a top 6 defender, so I'm very happy to have him in the side. Tom Stewart, as we mentioned before, 105, had a huge second half there. What was it, 74 points or whatever it was? He was on 31 at half time and up on a 105. Just a great performance by him, and yeah, very, very happy to own him in the side. And he's got a lot of games, as I said, at home. So he should be putting up some big scores in the back half of the year, or back part of the year. Lockie Ash, 78. I know the weather wasn't really suitable for him. He did have 6 kick-ins, which obviously boosted his score from would have been a 60 to a 78. He's been a bit of a waste of a pick. I picked him up around 10. He's obviously been solid without being spectacular. Like he's got 2 90s, 2 80s, a 70 and a 60. Obviously, when I got him, I was expecting him to put up maybe something around these sort of scores, the 102s and 123s, but unfortunately hasn't quite been able to really replicate that form. So he might be going for me this week. Whitfield's back in the side, break him at 102. If I can get him up to a better premium, I might consider doing that if Sheldrick puts up a good score on the Thursday night. So he could go. Campbell Chester 61 was solid. I thought he looked good today, actually. He had some good moments. That's obviously his best score of his career to date. And I know he only got a 23 the week before, but he just looked better today. Like he got more involved, which was good to see. What was his game time like? 80, played high game time as well, which he hasn't been really doing too much of. Obviously was sub here, but is more been in the 70s. Obviously played that high game time because that was the game they had a lot of injuries. But he's starting to build form, which is great. He was obviously making a bit of cash now, which is good, and he's probably going to be some cover for me in defence if Mullen doesn't come in, who I actually brought in this week. I didn't like bringing in a red dot, but there was no other defender rookies. So I thought, well, who's probably the best chance of getting a game? O'Donnell could be dropped this week. He's obviously scored poorly again. Faye's not in the team, and I can only see him getting in the team if there's an injury. So I thought Mullen's probably the best bet to get a game. So hopefully he gets a game there. The Bont. He has been one of my best picks of the year. He's just been fantastic. He seems to score 116 a fair few. He's already done that, three times already this year, but he's just an absolute beast. Now has got a low score of 108 since round 8. And that's only his only score under 110. He's only gone twice under 116. So in that time frame, he's just been fantastic. So it's really been since round 4 that he's really hit his form. His tackle numbers are up, which is great. He's getting his marks as well and just putting up solid scores. So yeah, he's an absolute beast, which a lot of these players are. And he's also cracked $1 million as well. So feels pretty good to own. How many is that now? That's 1, 2, 3. Oh, because Dunkley went under, and also English isn't over $1 million. But we've got all the $1 million men in the team, which is great. Andrew Brayshaw is near that sort of $1 million mark. Dropped a little bit again this week, but another 102 ticking over the tons again. He hasn't gone under a ton since round 6, and that was a 99. So he's been great. He doesn't normally score too big against the Bulldogs. Doesn't really sort of put up all the stat lines to get a big score against the Dogs, but he's been very, very good, and yeah, will be one of the top couple of midfielders on the run home. So if you don't have him, he'd be a good target to look at. Rory Ladd, as we mentioned before, obviously poor score. I think that's his second 80 in 4 games now, which is obviously disappointing. He got a tag here. This one wasn't even tag either. He just didn't really get enough of the ball. He rarely ever fell under 25 possessions last year and in the last few years, but another 24 possessions here. He has done a couple of times this year where he has got low possessions. So the game time was up a little bit, which was good. From previously, it was his highest game time since round 10. But yeah, hopefully he can respond this week with a good score against the Bombers, which, I think he can put up a good score. But, hopefully a response from him. Tom Green, 108, was good. Had 38 touches for that, though, and he had 28 handballs, which is just sort of, you want him to do a little bit more than just handball the ball. So, Tom, mate, if you're watching this, just put the ball in the boot a little bit more, mate, to score us a bit more points, because that would have been a 120 if it wasn't for all those handballs. But, hey, he's getting the tons, which is all we want. So, yeah. So he's only gone once under the ton since round 10, only twice since round 3. So, yeah, he's just been consistent, and I think he'll be a top 8 midfielder from here still, so no problems with him. Connor Rosie, high score of the season for him with a 145. He just gets it done. Like, ever since I questioned him, I think it was around after this 79, I was like, oh, he's only got the couple of hundreds for the year, he's gone under 103 games in a row, but since then hasn't gone under 100 since, so maybe it was that little rocket that he needed. Just keeps hitting the scoreboard as well in all these games. But that was good to see him go and get a big score like that. Nearly got the double there of the 10 marks, 10 tackles, close to that. So again, huge score. Who's he? I think he's got Gold Coast this week, so could be a sneaky VC play. Do they play early in the week? I'm not actually sure when they play during the week, but he could be a VC or captain option. I'm sure we'll get into that later in the week, but he's one to consider. Brad Crouch, we mentioned before, been very, very good, and another good score again. That's now, how many scores? Yeah, 500s in a row. They've all been above 109, and they're all consistent 110 pluses, essentially. So I think he's going to be a top 8 midfielder the way he's going, and they've got a pretty decent run to finish the year, the Saints. So I think, will continue. Yeah, look at that. Very, very nice run to finish the year. So he's just going to continue to put up these good scores. He's at a bit more of an expensive price. So if you don't have him, I think you can still bring him in with a low break even and how he's going. But obviously, it's just not as much value as what he was a few weeks ago. Jack Steele, on one hand, it was good to see him get, the 76% game time. So it's a bump from the week before. He looked fine. Like, he looked good. He looked like he's moving fine. He's just out of form. He's just not laying. He's just, a lot of tackles slipped. He could have easily had 10 plus tackles today. He's just not quite putting it all together at the moment. He's just out of form. So hopefully the more games that he plays in a row, gets that sort of continuity in his body, and then can start putting up some big scores like we're seeing obviously at the start of the year. But I've got confidence he can get back to that. So I'm not going to trade him at all until he's probably the worst issue in my team. Then I may consider it. But I've got a few other guys I'd rather get rid of. I think still bounce back to form. Again, he's still got some good matches to come, like Brad Crouch. So I think, and Melbourne sort of is a matchup that, to sort of, when you think about it, would sort of suit a guy like him. So we'll have to see how he goes this week. Hopefully another ton and can get back on track. Will Day 79, not as good as last week, but he's playing a good role. For me at the moment, I'm probably going to go him to Sicily next week. So that's probably the plan I've got at the moment. But yeah, he's one more week from him, and that'll be fine. And I'll probably look at moving him on. Matt Johnson just continues to put up good scores. It's now 3 of his last 4. He's gone over 85. He's up to 531k now, break even at 28. He's just been a very, very solid cash cow. Went up another 50k. I'm sort of a little bit hesitant to trade him this week, just because I know that he can still put a little bit more cash on his head, and then maybe get into a better upgrade the week after. But I'm not sure. If him going facilitates the move I want, that'll be what I do. Dev Robertson, 61, was okay. 351k's up to now, break even to 21. He's got West Coast this week, so I'm probably going to hold him for at least one more week to try and make a little bit more cash, break even in the 20s. If he holds his spot, he'll probably be a good emergency, because they play the first game on the Saturday, so he could be a guy that if Sheldrick was to sort of fail on Thursday night, if Dev Robertson did well on Saturday, then I'd be able to take his score. So just something I'll be doing there probably. But he's been okay without being spectacular. Tim English, again, just another ton, just getting the job done yet again. So very, very happy with him. And Ryan Marshall as well. Just the dynamic duo in the ruck, the best 2 rucks of the year. Just continue to get it done again. He's now got his average over 110, which is great. He's been about that 108, 109 most of the year, but now it's pushed over the 110, which is great. 950k. Yeah, it would have been obviously great if I started both. Starting English was great, but starting Marshall was great. I wish I started English too, but hey, at least I've got him now. Tim Taranto, that was obviously his first dud of the year. Would have been good if he put up a good score, so I wouldn't have had to rely on a captain like a Laird after, but he can get that sort of pass for a week. Hopefully he responds this week against Sydney on the Thursday night. It'll be interesting to see who a lot of coaches go out of Taranto and Goulden as the VC. I'm probably torn at the moment. I'm not sure who I'll go. Probably got it back in Taranto, but Goulden's got that ceiling. Richmond's a great matchup, so yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who I go. Josh Dunkley, 72 there, obviously was subbed out just before, I think it was at 3/4 time, I think it was. So who knows if he's going to play this week. I think he will. I think he will play, but we'll just have to keep an eye on the news throughout the week, the injury reports, to see if there's anything to come of that. I think he'll play, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did rest him as well. So I don't want to have to trade him, but if he was rested, that would obviously be, you'd have to look at moving him on. And who would I probably get? Probably get a Butters, because I just don't have Butters, so it'd probably be him I'd probably grab. Errol Gordon, obviously, just mentioned with Taranto there. Another big score again, 128 against Geelong, which isn't an easy matchup to do that in. He's obviously top 6 4. We know this. He's obviously having an amazing year, averaging 109. I don't think when we picked him at the start of the year, any of us could have imagined he was going to average 109. I think a lot of us said if he can go 95 to 100, that would obviously be a great pick, because that means he's about 10, 15 odd points underpriced. But he's been able to put about 24 points up on what he was priced. I think he was priced around the 80, 85. So he's been fantastic. One of the best picks of the year for coach that started with him. And yeah, it would have always been good if he didn't put that 180 in the preseason, because then not as many people would have jumped on the preseason. But everyone would be very happy they did, because I probably wouldn't have jumped on him if he didn't have that 180. So, but yeah, he's been great. Darcy Cameron, disappointing score there with only a 58. I don't know if he's an issue per se. It's his first bad score since I've had him, so I can't really sort of knock it down to he's been a bad pick. He's obviously got 200 and a 96 there. We'll just have to see how he goes this week. It was a tough matchup against Wits. Only the 13 hits and just didn't get any tackles, any marks around the ground, so wasn't able to put up a score like he did against Melbourne, where he only had the 13 hitouts. But hopefully responds against the Dogs this week in a bit easier matchup under the roof, and hopefully don't have to worry about him. But hey, we'll have to see how he goes. Ben Keys, as I mentioned as well before, could potentially be that top 6 forward that was underpriced a lot of coaches wanted, and I'm glad I jumped on him 2 weeks ago, because he's made nearly 100k. I think it's pretty much about 100k since I got him in, and yeah, he's just been very, very good. He's got some good matchups to come as well. Obviously, a couple of tough ones here, like Giants, Port, a bit tougher, Brisbane there. But again, these numbers here, this is what he was doing when he was playing in the midfield in the past couple of years. And if he can get back to doing this, but for the rest of the year, I think he'll be a top 6 forward, and still a good option at 776k. So still cheap enough to bring him in if you want to look at him. Obviously, taking Sheldrick's score, he's been fantastic. Another 95k made, still a negative 23 break even, up to 465k. And the good thing is he plays Thursday night again, so I'll be able to loop him, which is great. Looking forward to seeing what he can do Thursday night again. I think Warner's going to be out for a couple of weeks. I think that's what JD was saying on the Twitter space today. So if that's the case, then that's going to be good to be able to loop him again with that midfield role and hopefully put up a good score. So I'll be able to hopefully take him and be able to upgrade like a Lockie Ash instead. But if he failed, then I might have to look at maybe upgrading a Johnson or Winhager or someone. Lohman didn't play, but McCarthy did get suspended, so there's a chance Lohman does come back into Brisbane's side there. And then Winhager finishing the round off with a 77. But not too bad as well. Again, making a solid amount of coin, 38k, still 22 break even. So still him, Johnson, have still got money to make. It just depends. Do I get rid of one of these guys to upgrade my field, or do I go Ash up and try and loop between these guys? That's the question I've probably got to deal with this week. But all in all, the team was really good. Obviously, it was just Cameron, probably Ash, and maybe even a Will Day. They're probably the main guys that disappointed heavily. Obviously, Jack Steele was obviously not amazing. Obviously, Dunkley got subbed out and Taranto didn't do good. But everyone knows these two guys anyway. If I had a different captain, if I had Johnson over a few guys, then yeah, it could have been better. But hey, obviously it's a coulda, woulda, shoulda. So yeah, hopefully respond this week. Hopefully get back inside the top 6k. Obviously lose a tiny bit of ground, so it's almost like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But hopefully we take that step back forward again and get closer to 5k. And then hopefully my goal is to finish top 1,000 this year. In terms of trades, it's honestly to have no idea what I'm going to do. Probably comes a lot down to Sheldrick. It's at this stage, it's probably something like I don't like it, but like a Winhager down to Elijah Hewitt, and then like a Lockie Ash up to a Petrarca or something like that. That's early thoughts. If Sheldrick was to fail, it's probably something like a Winhager down and Johnson up to Mills to get that final rookie off field. It's probably one of those two are probably the ones I'm looking at. And yeah, as I said, Petrarca's probably the guy I'm looking at, but Butters is there as well. I don't think I can get Sarong, but like Treloar, if I want to go for a pod, but the body risk is there with him. They're probably the main guys I'm considering there to bring in this week. But that's really what I'm looking at doing. So Anyway, let me know in the comments below how you guys went in round 16. Let me know your plus and negative threes and what your trade thoughts are. Any trade questions, I'll get to those in the comments below. So if you want to put them in, feel free. If you like the video, make sure you click the thumbs up. They'll be very much appreciated. It does help the channel out immensely. And also subscribing to the channel also does. We're only 2 subscribers away from 1,200 subscribers. So if you can hit that sub button and help me reach that goal, that would be very much appreciated. All my social media links are in the description below. Make sure you're going to follow me across all the socials and then turn notifications on so you don't miss when I go live or upload any other content on the channel. So then you know when I go live for any watch-alongs or upload any other content. So we've got Wednesday Trade Talk that'll be coming out as next video. There won't be watch-alongs for the next 2 weeks as I'll be in Perth for the Traders live show. So just obviously getting away for a little bit, and it'll just be probably a little bit difficult to do the watch-alongs. But if I do the watch-alongs, I'll let people know. But I don't think at this stage we'll be doing the watch-alongs. So, but yeah, appreciate all the support as always on the channel, and I'll chat to you guys on the Wednesday Trade Talk. Have a good week, guys, and I'll chat to you in the next video. So I'm out. Cheers.